and then start letting people in. Okay.
Do you want to change your name on there, Songtree?
Hi, everybody. We'll get started in just a minute.
Hi.
Hello, everybody. We'll get started in just a minute. We're just allowing people to come in from the waiting room.
Hello.
Hi. Welcome to our Zoom. We'll get started in just a moment. Turn off my phone. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for inviting us. I know that Representative Montoya should be joining as well.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Thank you for coming. We will get started in just a moment. We are letting people in from the waiting room.
There's nothing in the printer.
Thank you all so much for your time. I appreciate it. We're going to get started in one more minute.
Welcome, Representative Montoya.
Hello. Who's welcoming me? Is that Shomo?
Yes.
That was Shomo.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here with you. Thank you.
We just have a couple more people coming on and then we will get started.
What a beautiful day we're having, huh? Has everybody looked outside? It's bright and clear with the wind, and spring is on the way. I know it's a little early, but I'm an optimist.
Historically, I have always worn something springy in February and then froze. I'll try not to do that this
Okay. Hello, everybody. My name is Sangchi Payochi. I am a organizer and a supporter of the T2 2032 Youth Action League. Thank you so much for coming. We're just going to start with some housekeeping real quick. If you are not speaking, can you keep yourself on mute? We'd appreciate that. We are going to start with a welcome, then a prayer and land acknowledgement by a community organizer, April Cordova, out of Los Angeles. And then we, since this is a small group, we will go ahead and do some introductions, followed by Ms. Yazi doing an overview of the Yazi Martinez case. Then we'll go one by one through House Bills 84, 85, 86, and 87. And after that, we'll open it up for discussion. Sound good?
Yeah, but before we start, I'm having trouble with volume, and I have my volume all the way up. It's just I'm not hearing real well.
Okay.
Is anyone else having that challenge?
Yes, I had to reset the Zoom in order for, I couldn't hear anything.
I am a little soft spoken, so I'll try to speak up a little. Thank you. April, why don't you go ahead and get us started with the prayer and land acknowledgement?
Thank you. It's an honor to be here. Hiaho, Mitakiape, April Cordova, Machiape, Malakota, and Taos Pueblo. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is April Cordova. I'm Taos Pueblo on my father's side. My father's name is Kunquilla. I'm Oglala Lakota on my mother's side, 6th generation from Chief Red Cloud, and it's my honor to be here today to open up with the land acknowledgement and prayer. Today I originally come from Los Angeles, California, home of the Tongva people, but today I am coming to you from Las Vegas, Nevada, which is I'm near the Snow Mountain Paiute reservation, and I just want to make sure that I acknowledge the land that I'm on as a visitor here in Las Vegas. I'm going to go ahead and say a prayer. I'm burning California white sage today, which I harvested myself in Los Angeles. So I'm just going to go ahead and say a quick prayer. Creator, we come to you today with open hearts and open minds, thankful for the many blessings that you provide us on a minute, monthly, second basis, from the ability to walk, talk, be here today in this virtual meeting to learn about these important bills. I'm so thankful and honored to be here. May you continue to bless the individuals here. May you bless them with strength, wealth, health, and a continued desire to be the best that they can be. Thank you for all of your many blessings, and may you continue to bless the individuals in this room. Pilamayaye, Ajonasle, 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 Amen. Wadu, thank you.
Thank you. Next, I want to introduce Clarissa Duran. She's the director of the T2 2032 Youth Action League, and she could go ahead and introduce the platform. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us here today. It's a very exciting time for New Mexico to have so many great bills out there, and I'm so grateful to you, Ms. Yazi, for being with us, and to you, Ms. April, for providing us with a blessing today. T2 2032 Youth Action League was something that got born out of the general elections with me as a volunteer for some of our youth who are on here who were working as employees of the State Democratic Party in New Mexico. Out of that experience, I decided that I wanted to start a little organization to help young people gain more skills in community organizing, and we're basically focused on democratic political organizing in our group. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will be putting the link to our website up for you so that you can learn more about us. Thank you.
And then let's just do popcorn style. And I think we have like a small enough group where we could do short introductions. And let's start with Representative Roger Montoya.
Hello, everyone. What a pleasure to be here on this beautiful day. I am Roger Montoya. I was just elected to represent House District 40, which includes Okewinge, a big chunk of Rio Arriba, Mora, San Miguel County, Colfax County. It's about 5,000 square miles and 30,000 constituents. I am an artist, a community organizer first and foremost. I bring invention and love and grace and dignity to the land first and foremost, and all the living creatures and people that live upon this beautiful place. I'm inspired. My first 2 weeks in the legislative body has been a mixture of overwhelming inspiration, sometimes desperation, not knowing what I'm doing, and utter bliss. So it's been a great honor. Thank you so much. I'll move it over to Andrea Thomas.
Hi, Yate, everyone. My name is Andrea Thomas. I am an educator, a parent in Shiprock, in Nomination Public School District, and I have 2 children, and I am looking forward to this discussion. Great to see many faces today. I've heard many great things of many of you and some of the things that you're doing. So I am looking forward to a good conversation. So thank you. I will go to Isaac.
Hi, everybody. I'm Isaac Asados. My mother is originally from the Navajo Reservation. She was born and raised in 2 Great Hills. And so my connection with the reservation is pretty extensive. I'm actually heading there tomorrow to go interview my uncle who ran the power plant there in that area for quite some time. My other uncle, Sosi, ran NAPI for a number of years. And my mother as well is an educator. She has her master's and has been so fortunate to be an educator at Santa Clara Day School for over 30 years. I was very fortunate to then work with AG Tom Udall before he became congressman, and then went off to Washington, D.C. and studied at Georgetown University and was able to work on Capitol Hill for both Republicans and Democrats. And I'm very fortunate to be the chief of staff for Representative Roger Montoya. And our goal is to kind of find where the commonalities and the threads of where we have interconnectivity rest. And I think having the Native American voice is so important because a lot of the times it's overlooked and it's missed. So we're honored to be on here today. Thank you. And I will go to Sangtree.
Thank you. My name is Sangtree Payochi. I'm an organizer in Bloomfield, New Mexico. I'm also a parent advocate and a senior at the University of New Mexico studying Native American Studies, and happy to bring this platform to you. I want to give a really fast story. I remember standing in front of the Bloomfield School Board District talking about how my children needed to have different kinds of resources so that they could thrive, and crying in front of them and not really being supported. And then like 3 months later, the Yazzie Martinez lawsuit was decided. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so thankful for that. So with that, also, I'm going to, now that Wilhelmina's in her spot, I'm going to give it to Wilhelmina.
Yat e anoltsko ha she ya Wilhelmina Yazzie yenishe dish cheating national ki ani bashichin twitchine dashe ashe dashanale tetra talk all day icy nasha aro not ne George de na shagando anashnish tra e shaalchin aro bishnani enle Lakota South Dakota date akot ego de nestanishne Shamande e Annie Yazzie Wolgende, Aroshamusland Che Betty and Tom Yazzie Wolgende. So Aro Hehat di by Hensen dig Distin Craggy Hagoshit on Nidiki by Hensen do Yat Edo Hehat the Dishney. Good afternoon, everybody. Just a short introduction in my Dene language. I am Navajo of the Dene tribe. I'm originally from the eastern portion of the Navajo Nation in New Mexico, from a small rural community called Casimiro Lake, New Mexico. It's right around by Crown Point area. I don't know if any of you are familiar with that area. And I was born and raised there. I have 3 beautiful children, and I also have my partner who's of the Lakota tribe out of South Dakota. And I'm a mother, a parent advocate. I'm also been in the legal field for about 15 years. I'm also a tribal court advocate, licensed to practice in my tribal courts. And also, I also sit on the governing board for Six Directions Indigenous School. It's a charter school here in Gallup. And then also, I just became a new member with the Kiwanis Club of Gallup, serving the children of the world. And I'm sorry, I had my little one walk in and she kind of interrupted what I was doing. So that's a short introduction of who I am. I'm also one of the plaintiffs in the Yazzie Martinez lawsuit. I think that's it in a nutshell, but thank you.
Let's go ahead and continue with introductions to be inclusive of everybody that came. So the next person I will pick on is Carlos Trujillo.
Good afternoon. Buenas tardes. I'm Carlos Trujillo, and I work for Representative Roger Montoya. I'm his deputy chief of staff, and a lot of people. I work with Isaac and Representative Montoya on a daily basis, and some people say, well, state representative doesn't ever have a deputy and a chief of staff, and Representative Montoya is a different type of legislator. He is very engaged in the community. He is having us, not trying, he is having us implement a very strong constituent services operation. We are also working with other representatives, developing relationships that will help not only his district, but all of New Mexico. Last week we were down in the southern part of the state, visiting the colonias, visiting the border region of the state, and seeing what the differences are in rural New Mexico. I've been working in politics probably for about 20 years. I had the honor of working for Governor Richardson for about 6 years in his political operation, and I ran Congressman Ben Ray Lujan's first campaign for United States Congress. And then I had to get out of politics for a while. I had some personal issues that I had to get my life in order, if one would say. And so I'm loving working in politics again, and just such a great honor to be here and be a part of this and hear what you all have to say today. So it's with great respect and honor that I sit and listen and feel welcome to this group.
Thank you, Carlos. The next person I see is Harvey McGinnis.
Hello, everyone. Thank you first and foremost for the opportunity to meet with all of you. My name is Harvey McGinnis. I am a first-year student at Johns Hopkins University, but I grew up here in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and that's where I am currently. But before I continue, I just want to say one of my foundational memories in politics was sitting in on the Senate Education Committee here in New Mexico, discussing the implementation of the Yazzie Martinez case. So it's truly an honor to meet with you today. Education has always been at the forefront of my mind whenever I think of politics. So I'm holding back tears meeting with you. This is truly an honor. I am also an educator. I teach 3rd through 4th grade at my local synagogue twice a week. And I was on the Santa Fe Public Schools Board as a youth representative for 2 years in high school. And those were two of the greatest opportunities I have ever been presented with, and I hope to continue with that throughout my life.
Thank you, Harvey. Next person I see is Ty Raylin Scott.
Good morning or good afternoon. So I'm a parent. I have a senior at Aztec High School. I also had a son who graduated back in 2018 from Aztec. So I'm here as a parent. Songtree and I also sit on a parent committee or parent committees for Aztec District for the Indian education. So we're here advocating for our parents and our students. Thank you.
Thank you, Tyre. Next is Damien.
Hello, everyone. I'm Damien Artalejo. I am currently living in Farmington, New Mexico, all the way out here in San Juan County. I am currently the vice chair for the County Democratic Party here in San Juan, and also the male vice chair for Congressional District 3 up here in the north. Once again, I would like to thank each and every one of you for being here today. I am Mexican American, but something I take very personally is allyship. I do find allyship to be the one thing that is very important for everyone's cause. I feel like if we help out those who are severely affected in one instance, for example, the Black Lives Matter movement and also the Yazzie Martinez case, if we fix those for the most affected, those issues, then it doesn't get better just for the affected, but for everyone that gets affected, or sorry, like disproportionately affected. So thank you all once again for being here, and I look forward to hearing all of your stories and educating myself at the same time. Thank you. I will pass it over to Shomo.
Hi, my name's Shomo. I put the pronunciation of my name in my name since I figure it's easier for people, considering it's not entirely phonetic. So elementary school was really fun for me. I am currently finishing up my last year of law school. Other than that, I wouldn't entirely know how to describe myself besides like a person who has a lot of personal, passionate projects to the point where I can't keep them all organized. But I have a certain vision that I think this country as well as the state can live up to with a giant push. So anything I can do to help that push, I'm willing to do. Oh, and I'll popcorn it over to Sophia.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sophia. My family is originally from Santa Fe. I grew up in Los Angeles. I go to school in New York. But inequity in education broadly has always been really, really important to me as a child of public schools, but also as someone who has seen kind of the different school districts and how they address inequity, you know, in California, in New Mexico, and in New York has been really eye-opening for me. So I'm really, really excited to be here to be talking about, you know, these really, really important topics. And so I thank everyone for being here as well. I'm also coming with the T to 2032 Youth Action League. And I'm really, really just honored to be here. So thank you so much. And I'll pass it back to Songtree.
Okay, Say, why don't you introduce yourself?
Do you mind if I read it off for you, Say?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Hi y'all, I am having tech difficulties, but I am here and working on getting my mic to work in camera. I am Say Henderson, I live in Farmington. I'm originally from Washington State. My tribes are Yakama Nation, Nez Perce. I'm so sorry if I'm mispronouncing any of these, by the way. And Gros Ventre. I work in the schools as a lunch lady. I'm a business student here at San Juan College, as well as Chief of Staff for San Juan County Young Dems.
Thank you, Say. I see a couple more people. Elvira Dennison.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Elvira Dennison. I'm from Notch City, New Mexico. I have 2 children that are in Central Consolidated Schools District. One is in the elementary and one in the high school. I am part of several committees that I had previously for a couple of years, and I didn't realize that that a lot of support was needed by parents to advocate for students in the school district, and I started advocating for students about maybe 4 years now, and it has brought me to where I'm at this point, which I'm meeting a lot of people and enjoying meeting people, and I guess that's who I am right now.
Thank you, Elvira. I think we have one more person. M. Carroll, would you like to introduce yourself? Okay, let's go to Melissa Wasena.
Good afternoon. My name is Melissa Waseni. I am the Executive Director for EPICS here in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And EPICS stands for Education for Parents of Indian Children. And it's really an honor to be in this workshop and discussion. I'm looking forward to see, and learn all about the Yazzie Martinez so that I can share them with our parents that come through our program. And thank you for having me.
Okay, thank you so much. If anybody has been missed, please let me know. If not, we can go ahead and get started with Wilhelmina's presentation. Okay, Shomo, did you want to share the slides? Thank you.
Yat e Nana. Again, thank you for having me. I'm honored to be here with you all. And it's great hearing from everybody, their background and who they are. And it gives me great joy that everybody comes together like this to discuss the importance of our children. And I just want to say thank you. So I'll kind of just do an overview of the Yazzie Martinez court ruling. This PowerPoint is actually from our legal team from New Mexico Center on Law and Poverty. Just kind of just an overview of what this is all about. So briefly, before we start the slide, let me kind of just talk about how this came about and where this came. So I live in Gallup, but I was born and raised in Casimiro Lake on the tribal lands. And my children, I have 3 children. My oldest one finished high school, and he's the one that I'm in this school suit with is Xavier. And then I also have Reese and my 5-year-old. So now that he's done with high school, going on to college, I still have my 2 younger ones that are in the public school. So when this all started, Xavier was, I think, in elementary, probably about 3rd grade. And just a lot of the same similar things that we've been going through with our children. And with me, from my mother's teaching about the importance of education is what really brought this forth for me. Just kind of seeing where my children were at in the public school system. With Xavier, it started out, he's a bright kid, getting good grades and just doing really good in school. Didn't think I had really nothing to worry about. But then when it came to testing, he wasn't testing at his grade level. He was testing below grade level. So at first I was like, okay, maybe it's just the testing or the overview or the curriculum that they teach that's not being prepared. So then I started looking into it, trying to find out what was the cause and how we could help him more to really have him test at his grade level. And then as time began, just other things such as limited classroom materials for teachers, no support for teachers, no social service, no counselors available. Gosh, as I'm talking, I'm thinking back when Xavier was in 3rd grade, and now I'm sitting here and he's done with high school. And then he went on to mid school and high school. Mid school, the same thing, not enough counselor. There was maybe one counselor covering over 300 students. And textbooks weren't allowed to be brought home. They had to be shared among their peers. So we had to do some research online in order for me to help him with his homework and such forth. I tried getting him into advanced classes as well. We just went through all those avenues. And then also the academic support for him to be college ready, career ready. And most of all, from all this, my primary concern was there was no inclusion for our Native American students. I hate to say that, and I think a lot of our Indigenous parents, and we've had that experience. I've had many parents tell me different type of stories, worse than some of the experiences that I've had. So that we filed the school. Oh, if you can go ahead and go to the next one. So when we first filed this, it was in 2014, and it started here in McKinley County. I started with as a primary plaintiff, and when the time came to decide if I wanted to do this or not, was it was hard for me because of, as a minority, as an Indigenous person. It was just kind of one of those things like, okay, I'm not sure where this is going to go, how this is going to go. And I was kind of hesitant to join or to even pursue this. But then I went back to my mother because she was an educator for over 30 years. She started with the Navajo Nation Head Start and then on to secondary school and BIE schools. And just her teaching and her value and how she valued children is what, guided me to pursue this and to go ahead and go with the school suit and just go forward with it. So we filed in 2014 here in McKinley County. And then we did an amended to add more parents and parent plaintiffs and more school districts. And then a similar case came about in Santa Fe, Martinez case, pretty much the same claims that we're filing for this suit. So then we consolidated in Santa Fe with both cases. That's how it became the Yazzie Martinez case. And our legal team is out of New Mexico Center on Law and Poverty, and Martinez, they have a different legal group, but we all work together. And our main was to, for every student deserves to graduate ready for college and career and to pursue their dreams. That's the basis of this, but there's way more that's come out of this, which I'm very grateful for. If you can go to the next one. So of course, our state constitution says that our children are entitled to sufficient education. All children. You go ahead and go to the next one. And that all public schools are insufficient and inequitable, especially for our Native American children and English language learners, our children with disability, low-income families, and those that they deem at risk. I really don't like to use the word at risk for our children. In our Navajo culture way, we have to be careful on how we label our children, and that's a whole different story, but as I'm going forward with this. So public schools are starved of resources. Our education system lacks multicultural, multilingual framework. There's not enough programs. And it's, I think, very, so my children go to school here in Gallup in the city, but then with the tribal schools out in the tribal lands, they suffer way much more worse than the schools that are here in the city or even the bigger towns. If you can go to the next one. So that's my son, Xavier. I think we took this picture maybe right after the ruling 2 years ago. So, and then go ahead and go to the next. And the suit was against the state of New Mexico and PED. In 2017, we went to trial. It was about a 2-month trial. In 2018, we got a decision and order. And I always remember this. It was on July 20th, 2018. It was on a Friday. And I was heading out, getting off work after 5. And usually I'm try to get out of work after 5. But for some reason, I kind of, you know, stayed and took care of some other stuff. And right before I left, an email came in. It said that there was a decision and order for this case. I was scared to open it, but I thought, you know, well, we'll see what's going on. So I opened it, and it's about 76 pages of decision order that Judge Singleton had ordered, very comprehensive. She had put everything in there that our children was lacking, you know, directing or having the state to implement to try to come up with a plan to better the education system for our children. So I reread it just to make sure, it was right of what I was reading. After the decision came in, if you can go to the next slide. In 2020, the state had filed, or early last year, the state had filed a motion to dismiss the case, basically just saying that, you know, we don't need a court order to really tell us what to do or how to do our job, that we're doing what we can without a court order and such. But then the judge denied their motion to dismiss and didn't dismiss the case. And then there was other filings, like motion for discovery, which means that we're asking the state to provide proof of what their plans are to implement and to abide by the court ruling. So that's still coming about. If you can go to the next one. And here, discovery is still going about. We're collaborating with the Martinez legal team as well. Just recently, our legal team had filed a motion for technology for our at-risk children, primarily the Native American children that live in the rural area that still don't have access to internet and still don't have devices, technology devices, such as laptops and computers. Gosh, they're struggling still even through this pandemic. And I think the pandemic really brought everything above water to really see how our children are suffering. And the other big thing I think too is that our teachers are not given the support that they need and deserve, the resources that they should be getting, the training, especially our teachers that are teaching in these rural areas on our tribal lands. So if you can go to the next one. After the court ruling came about, there was a coalition of different advocates, leaders, policymakers, tribal leaders, parents, guardians, educators that came together. I think there was maybe 3 meetings, and that's where this Transform Education New Mexico Coalition came about. And there was a framework that was implemented and presented to the state to kind of give them a guide of what to, follow from this court order. And primarily just, equitable and sufficient education for our children. If you can go to the next one. These are some of our coalition member organizations that had all put in all their input to come up with this framework. And I know that there is a Tribal Education Alliance Coalition group as well that have come together and did also a framework. And on that one, I think Songtree is going to be able to share some of that information. If you can go to the next one. And here are the remedies that you'll see if you go to Transform Education New Mexico website. They have a lot of resources, information that you'll be able to look into. They'll kind of guide you and also kind of give you a brief update and what the case is all about. And I think we're towards the end of it. If you can go to the next. So this is a very lengthy, comprehensive proposed remedy platform that, that the coalition came up with and was provided to the state. I think this is just the first page of it. If you can go to the next one. And then we have the Tribal Pueblo Yazi Remedy Framework recommendations as well. You know, the Tribal and Pueblo Nation leaders working together with parents, students, community, and then also the state. If you can go to the next slide. And this is very true, still a long way to go. Like I said, my oldest son is already done with high school. He's gone on to college. He's taking college courses this semester. And then I have my second son who's a sophomore in high school. He has 2 years left. And then my little one, my youngest one is 5-year-old going into pre-K. And she's one that I'm really hoping that we see a lot of changes. And I know that there was a little bit of salary increase for teachers last year. Otherwise, other than that, I haven't seen anything much more, especially within funding our Indian education programs and the multicultural, excuse me. And then we still have teacher shortages. Classrooms still don't have bilingual teachers, especially within our tribal schools. There's not a lot of cultural teachers of our own. If you can go to the next slide. So what's next? Advocacy effort, sufficiency and equity in education and transparency. Public Education Department plans, what their plans are in the legislative agenda for 2021. And those are the bills that we're gonna go over. And go ahead, go to the next slide. And this is the, our legal team, the New Mexico Center on Law and Poverty. There's a couple of our counsel, and one counsel that really worked hard on this is Gail Evans. She's no longer with New Mexico Poverty and Law, but I cannot thank our legal group enough for everything that they do and everything that they've done to help us with this case and the outcome of it. And then also we have the Transform Education New Mexico on the bottom, their website, a coalition group that came together to really implement the framework and present to the state to try to give them a lead and direction. So, and I think this is the end of the PowerPoint. So right now that tech motion was filed asking for relief from the court to have the state implement some relief on getting more technology and such as devices and internet connection to our tribal schools in the tribal land areas. The state responded. I think that our legal team is going to file a reply brief here pretty soon. So I'm not sure what the outcome of that's going to be. So that's where the case is at now. I'm just very thankful that the case was not dismissed, and that there are a lot of people coming together, a lot of advocacy, a lot of leaders, and our tribal government actually working together as well to really help our children's needs. Gosh, this education, you know, from the beginning wasn't really made for us. It was made to assimilate us, to rip us of our language and our culture. And that's, you know, starting from the boarding school area. And then now in present time, even though our children are going to school, they're deprived of the resources. And it's always that we're put on the bottom, or we're last in line in everything. So I give all thanks and my inspiration to my mother, who viewed all children, her children, not just, you know, us children, but everybody in the community. She loved children so much. And of course, you know, within our Navajo culture ways and indigenous ways as well, that we hold our children very sacred. Everything that we do, our thoughts, our words, our actions, you know, they all fall upon them. So we just, you know, continue to stand for them. So that's just a brief overview of the case and a little bit about me as well. And that's pretty much what I have right now. But thank you. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Wilhelmina. I really appreciate that overview of the case. I put in the chat, if you want to make a comment or have a question, you can write the word stack and then we will let you speak. But I will continue with going over the House bills, but I just kind of had a memory about driving from my work in Durango to Crown Point to NTU, Navajo Technical University, to listen to Transform Education New Mexico. And one of the things that stood out to me was, first, I walked in and Dr. Glenna Martinez, my aunt, greeted me in our language. And I was so excited to see her, you know, part of this movement. And then after you spoke and everybody else spoke, and they were saying, we don't want your money. We need your support. We need to get the word out about this movement. So that's what we're doing now. And so Shomo, let's go to, let me see, no questions so far. Okay, so we're gonna go to transition to the Tribal Education Alliance work that is being done. If you wanna share the screen with that first website. Awesome. So there's some amazing work being done by so many people. And this is the website that you can reference for all of these bills that we'll be discussing. But and we'll put the link in the chat. And the first one that I'd like to go to is the one titled TEA 2021 Legislative Agenda Overview. So right now, the 2021 legislative session is happening, and these 4 bills are being presented. The first one we'll discuss is House Bill 84, called the Native Language Education Program Unit. And since I'm not like the author of these bills or anything, I'm just going to go ahead and read these. So House Bill 84 is amendments to the Public School Finance Act to make tribes eligible for funding from the State Equalization Guarantee, alongside school districts and charter schools. As Indian education in New Mexico is largely unfunded, this bill advances a more equitable distribution of state education resources. To provide for sufficient and sustainable funding for Native students, this bill proposes to treat tribal education departments similar to local education agencies and make them eligible for distributions from the state school funding formula. Add Native language program units to the school funding formula. Include Native students as a part of the at-risk index based on the Yazzie Martinez court ruling that declared Native students as an at-risk student group. Allow use of at-risk funding for tribal community-based after-school and summer programs, and use intergovernmental agreements to determine program costs and distributions to tribes. So in my opinion, I think this is so impactful, and I'll give a personal testimony. I am Taos Pueblo, and our language, the Tiwa language, is unwritten, and normally you can only learn to speak it if you live on Pueblo lands. it's really place-based language. And during this last year, our tribe has made this the Tiwa language courses available online by Zoom. And when I first enrolled, there was I talked to Bettina Sandoval, she's the director of education. She said 75 people signed up all over the country, and it ranges. And this is just the adult portion, not the children's. So there's like PhDs, there's lawyers, there's me, there's, regular, everybody wants to learn our language. So I think, that this is so important. House Bill 84 goes through to allow them, the resources that they need, because right now they are teaching this language from one building, one room with like 2 computers. So imagine if they had, a building with classrooms and a kitchen and a childcare center and offices and the curriculum and all of that. So I'm just excited about House Bill 84. The next one we'll talk about is House Bill 85, the Yazzie lawsuit response funding. So appropriations to address the needs of Native students by strengthening the role of tribal governments and communities in education governance and planning. This bill builds tribal capacity for greater education sovereignty, community-based education, culturally and linguistically relevant early childhood education and Native language programs. To address the unmet educational needs of Native students, this bill proposes to increase capacity of tribal education departments to share responsibility with school districts for educating Native students and to provide community-based education programs and services. Invest in tribal libraries as community education hubs to provide after-school and summer school programs, referrals to career and social support services, and technology access. Invest in community-based early childhood education programs, invest in Native language programs to preserve, sustain, and revitalize Native languages, develop an information technology-based plan to map IT needs and solutions for Native students. So, learning a language and culture does not happen between school hours. And in most school districts, speaking specifically for mine, Aztec and Bloomfield, sometimes the classroom is supposed to be teaching this language for like 2 hours a day. And you hear teachers saying that they're only allowed 15 minutes of the time because they need to meet certain benchmarks or whatever. And so, yeah, I support 85 so that we can expand that. Next is House Bill 86, the Native American Library, Internet, and Education. One more thought too is how many tribes have their own library? If you do, that is amazing. If not, these bills, are working to provide that. So House Bill 86 at the Native American Library, Internet, and Education. Capital investment in tribal community-based education infrastructure to meet the specific educational needs of Native students. This bill expands community-based education facilities to bridge the access gaps faced by Native students in public schools. So to enhance access for Native students to community-based education facilities, this bill proposes to rebuild or renovate tribal libraries to serve as community education hubs, invest in community-based early childhood centers, establish Indigenous curriculum development centers to spearhead the systematic production of culturally and linguistically relevant education plans and materials, guarantee internet access for all Native students through a comprehensive communication network that connects all tribal educational entities. So one thing I find interesting too about Aztec schools is they don't participate in the dual language program. Like you get a seal from the public education department if you test fluent in Navajo, Tiwa, Keres, any of the languages that are recognized. And so we all need to like get on the same page. And so I feel like some of these bills address those differences in all of the 89 school districts in New Mexico. House Bill 87, the Yazzie lawsuit higher ed funding, gives appropriations to Native American programs within public colleges and universities and to tribal colleges to improve Native students' college, career, and community readiness. This bill harnesses existing expertise within Native academia to help meet the Yazzie Martinez court mandates. To address education inequities faced by Native students, this bill proposes to invest pipelines for Native teachers, administrators, and educational leaders, expand successful college and career readiness programs for Native students, create 2 Native curriculum development centers and 2 Native technical assistance centers to support schools, school districts, and tribes in meeting the needs of Native students, increase tribal education capacity through workforce development and technical assistance. Since the Yazzie Martinez case happened, I mean, school districts and PED have been unable to respond to the needs. They need a college, or they need a framework to go by. I feel like there's been many, like the equity councils have been created. It's supposed to be made up of students of color or economically disadvantaged, which means anybody that qualifies for school lunches, special needs children. Parents are supposed to be on these equity councils, but what I've seen as a parent advocate is just the school board assuming the roles of equity councils. And so that is defeating the purpose of that. You know, legislators and professionals need to know what is really going on, where the inequities are, so we can create solutions, and that's not happening. And the University of New Mexico has an amazing plan to create like professional development, curriculum, everything. And so this is a huge bill, House Bill 87, in my opinion. And then the last thing is forthcoming bill, tuition waivers for Native students. Oh my God, this is huge. So I have a daughter, Cheyenne. She graduated from Aztec High School, and she was going to go to UNM, but she's going to San Juan College to save money, right? And, you know, to try to get through COVID. And even though she's fully eligible for Pell, fully eligible for, you know, all these great scholarship programs and stuff, it seems like the only thing being funded is her tuition, books, and fees. But I learned from my colleagues, my college colleagues, that they need money to live, you know, and not everybody can live with their parents. Not everybody can, you know, stay at home and live. And so I feel like this forthcoming bill would be awesome, so that we can possibly free up, you know, other resources to, you know, to pay for things like housing and transportation and groceries and childcare and things like that. So that is all of the House bills. And right now, let me look at my notes. One of them was heard on Friday at 8:30. And there was some amazing testimonial from all kinds of advocates, professors, coalitions, lawyers, and support. And, you know, the House Education Committee did pass House Bill 85 unanimously. And that is going to go to the House Appropriations and Finance Committee. So what we are asking of you is to consider all of these bills and go to, I'll post it in the chat, the House, to this next committee, and consider standing in support of any one of these bills. If you want to join listservs, I would suggest emailing Jasmine Yapa. She's the policy analyst for the Native American Budget and Policy Institute, and she does action alerts. And so she'll let you know by email, like House Bill 87 or whichever one is being heard in front of this committee on this day. Here's the Zoom link. And her email address is jasmine@nmpovertylaw.org. And then another way that you can, if you don't want, if you can't, for whatever reason, stand in support of these bills in these committees, you can join Transform Education New Mexico. And their website is transformedukationnewmexico.org. And they will send you alerts also, but it's kind of like you just populate your information and it'll send a written support letter to all of the committee members for whatever committee that they're in. So they do all the work for you. All you have to do is sign up and respond. And you hear the legislators saying how many emails they're getting. And so they, I don't know if you could add to this, Representative Montoya, about how much you pay attention to your constituents. But I was so impressed with the testimonial that was given on Friday. It's really bringing that intimate knowledge to why we need these. And it's also a testimonial to us working together as Indigenous people and allies to get these problems solved. And so that's all that I have to say about the House bills. Is there any questions? Oh, Carlos, you had a question.
I more so not necessarily on the bills, but I think just a general statement in terms of frustration with the inability for New Mexico to lead in teaching, majority, minority communities. That's an oxymoron, but these communities of color, we should really be leading the way in educating our Indigenous students and Hispanic students. There really shouldn't be this drop off. I know that Representative Montoya has talked a lot about this, and but we learn differently, and we've been teaching the same way for forever in a classroom, sitting down, very boring, and it just really frustrates me that we just can't seem to get it together to teach in a way that just brings in all components of education, art and culture and tradition and dance and all those things that excite young people in education. So it's just more of a, I guess, airing of a frustration and observation.
I agree with you 100%. As a non-traditional student at UNM, I feel like my purpose was revealed. Once I was learning about our philosophies and Native science and community building. I mean, this wouldn't be happening right now if I didn't have the education. And imagine if, we grew up with that from the start. And it has happened before all of these policies and stuff happened. But now, like one of those attorneys said, we are at a watershed moment where we need to use our voices and email our representatives and support these efforts right now. I think we have a question or a raised hand. I can't see it though. You can unmute yourself.
Hi, everybody. So one of the things that Representative Montoya has really been looking at is the inequity between rural and urban. And I think that that's one of the biggest challenges we face, is that our urban communities have taken a lot of the resources that should be mobilized to our rural communities. And one of the things that Representative Montoya is putting forth is House Bill 16, which would finally take all the rural community committees from both the House and Senate and put them really under one roof, so that we can start addressing the issues of basic running water and electricity and broadband and the inequities that we see. I was talking to my uncle earlier, and I said, we all take for granted the idea that we have electricity and that we have the ability to get onto a Zoom call. My grandmother was 85 years old before she had running water, sewage, and electricity. So the question now begs to differ of what is that inequity and how do we begin to solve it? And so he is tasking the legislative body to really begin addressing those key issues. And he can talk a little bit about where the directional path will be in that circumstance. But in relationship to that, we've been having a number of conversations with rural superintendents. And one of the general topics of discussion is that people learn very differently. But one of the things that New Mexico is so diverse and its culture and its tradition is so profound, we fail to teach that element. We forget that, there are kids who want to be farmers. There are kids who want to be able to work in the earth and to be able to find a way to support their families doing that. And we haven't been able to give the tools to those individuals to be able to achieve that goal. And so those are some of the objectives that we're hopefully going to try to push. And also the arts. We have a lot of our Native American communities that rely on art. And we're not teaching people how to become business members or to have a business accoutrement so that they can be successful in that endeavor. We tell everybody, pull yourself up by your bootstraps and let's hope that you build a business. Well, 83% of our businesses in the state of New Mexico fail. Why? Because we don't give them the support. We don't tell people whether you need an LLC, an S Corp, a C Corp, but it all goes back to the educational premise. And I think that this lawsuit lets our minds open up ourselves to the idea that we can do more. And if any other time that we could shake up the system, it's now, because we've really done it. We've seen what a system looks like when we've had to do it in a short period of time. Now with some time, where could we go? So with that, I'll defer to the representative and he can kind of share his vision.
Yeah, if it's possible to bring the screen back to all the faces instead of there we go. Okay, I'm sorry. I have to say technology is not one of my fortes, so I'm learning. Sitting on this call and listening has been a deep and profound honor. First and foremost, to understand the genesis of this case, which is indeed a landmark. It's the first sort of foundational blueprint, and I'm thankful to all the gods that it's there. But now what? What are the action points moving forward to bring the equity forward, right? And so as a first-time legislator, somebody asked earlier whether we were attentive to these bills, and I have to say, I speak for myself, that's why I'm on this call on a Saturday. This is of prime importance. This is the centerpiece of how we're going to lift this state and this nation and the world. My staff were mentioning the notion of the arts and culture and language and the foundational ways of knowing that in New Mexico, we have the most brilliant opportunity that we have not taken advantage of in any way, shape, or form. Instead, we've been force-fed this failed system that forces individuals to become factory robots. And I'm just going to say it. The word dismal in the report of how children are progressing is criminal, given the beauty and the potential of our children. Just a little bit of a background how I arrived here. I am not an educator in a formal sense, but I've spent 3 decades as an absolute lover of education. I have used the arts and culture as a way to revive and resuscitate the very spirit of a school and hence a community. Backing up, I was a dancer, professional dancer in Los Angeles and New York City. I taught myself to paint. I'm an oil painter of the landscape. So, and I had a very wonderful career around 1987 to 89, 90. The AIDS pandemic really crushed my world. I'm HIV positive for 36. Connecting to the land, connecting to the potential of young people, that I spent the next three decades bringing forward the Fine Arts Education Act to all of the schools in my region, which have native schools. We infuse those schools with dancers and singers and potters and drummers and just the vibrancy of hands-on learning. I then moved on to create a charter school of my own on the tribal community of Owinge. It's called La Tierra Montessori. It's a K-8 feeder program for the New Mexico School for the Arts. Following that, I created the Moving Arts at Española after-school program, and it was noted by CNN last year as one of the best aftercare institutions on a tribal community in the world. We can do it in New Mexico. We have all the resources, but we have to have the will, and we have to put the pressure on bringing culturally appropriate language, the land-based practice, the things that make our peoples who they are, the centerpiece of education. Because once that happens, the ignition for learning is in place, the community-centered engagement from parents and elders are embedded because we're perpetuating in the best of ways our language and practice. And then the pathways to identity, like who am I as a person? What is learning and why is it relevant for my chosen pathway? So I'm all of that to say, I'm at this precipice of my life. I'm going to be 60 next year. I plan to stay at least a decade in service. And this is a centerpiece for me. I'm here humbly listening. I want to learn. I want to have a fortified message. On Monday morning, I'm going to present a bill. It's a fine arts education bill that will hopefully bring back about $3 million to K-6 ed. It's a drop in the bucket. And one of the strong cases I'm going to make is that if there isn't a way to prove that arts and cultural education isn't a way to really strike that mandate that's at the center of this inequity, then what are we doing? And I know it's one small entry point. I want it to be, and I hope I will one day be on the education committee because I believe I belong there. They're all academics. They're all sort of, these well-trained PhDs and superintendents and school teachers, but there's no critical voices that are talking about what we know our children must have to survive and thrive. I will stop there because I'm hugging this scenario, but I just want each of you to know that I'm at your service. I'm your representative. Even though my district is in the north, I represent the entire state. I humbly yield back to all of you.
Thank you, Representative Montoya. I really appreciate all those words and look forward to supporting your bill, House Bill 16. Is that what you said it was?
I think my screen is frozen. I don't know about anybody else, but I can't hear or.
Yes, it's House Bill 16.
Okay, great. I'll check it out. Is there any comments or any further discussion? Andrea, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. I was really appreciate everything everyone said before me. Representative Montoya, you hit on something that I think is really key as an educator myself. And having grown up in Shiprock in the community, having been raised by my grandparents, I totally identify with the public school system and how, their idea of learning, in tribal communities without taking in the culture and the community needs, you know, how there's missed opportunities. I had been raised here and then moved to a suburb, and within that had struggles with my academics. It was okay, it was surviving where I was at, but when I moved elsewhere, I really struggled. And that was something that eventually kind of drove me and helped find in my passion, which was education and returning back into the community and serving Native students and Navajo, especially with that, exactly what he said about identity, who you are, really having that understanding of who's around you. And that's really important in our culture, and having that balance, and how can I bring that into the classroom. And something, having been a teacher 9 years here in Shiprock, it has really been something that I have seen that has thrived within my classroom. It has allowed my students to really, you know, find confidence in themselves and find other ways of learning, as opposed to just being, you know, textbook driven, but really finding other ways to bring the community involved. But then through that, you know, they're learning different trades, they're bringing their interest in what comes from their families, and, you know, artists, and, you know, bringing in, you know, different styles of learning and accommodating that. But one of the big things as we move forward, especially with this pandemic, that I really see is how do we support the students, their families, and the teachers. You know, a lot of the time it's great, you hear about all this money going into these, you know, these areas, but the voices that are missing the most are educators. You know, we hear a lot of conversations happening about with superintendents, with school boards, but how much are they involving their communities and their families? And I think there's a big disconnect there, because we are continuing to do everything the same way by only speaking to those people who are loud, you know, who are politicians or who have the experience, instead of going into the communities and speaking to people and hearing their voices. So, you know, through, you know, I think that that's one of the things that we can really hopefully move to, is like with all of these bills and, you know, really designing what the potential could be of improving New Mexico. I definitely think that we could be a state that could be an example of what we could do, the possibilities. But if we continue to, you know, avoid the problem and not have those conversations, that accountability, you know, that transparency, we're going to continue to be in this, you know. And if we push the voices down that are questioning the system, who, you know, are pushing back, or we get rid of the teachers, you know, we lose a lot of great teachers in our tribal communities because they're not supported. You know, they will go elsewhere because they feel like they can advance themselves in other ways. So thank you. I just wanted to say that I'm really in support of everything and everything everyone has mentioned, but it's great to hear. And I just wanted to share that. You know, he's not here right now, but his chief deputies, if that's something that could be taken back and shared with him as well. So yeah, thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Andrea.
We will definitely share that with him, and he shares the same opinions. And I think one of the things, and I don't mean to interrupt, but you know, I think as we move forward, we'll see how this legislative session goes. But you know, certainly, I think that this issue is not going to be solved in this legislative session alone. It's kind of a long haul approach that we have to really be transformative, but we really have an opportunity to seize the moment with COVID and everything that's gone on now moving forward. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you both. I know when I talk to teachers, they have a thirst too for this kind of training and awareness, and I'm looking forward to these bills providing that for them. Okay, so I think I don't see any more. Oh, go ahead, Damien.
Damien has his hand up.
Yes. So first off, Ms. Yazzie, I would love to thank you for, bringing this to our attention and also being here today to, teach us about what's going on so we can educate ourselves as well. I have definitely seen this even at my local college at San Juan College, just the inequities that we've been talking about, because we also have a combined high school, the San Juan College High School. And I see it where every high school student gets a free laptop to use during their high school career. But I know the difficulty, like even I faced, was that, everything's online and I had to go out and buy my own computer and laptop so I could do my own homework. And so I think it even extends out to the colleges as well within New Mexico, so that we make it equitable for everyone all the way from pre-K to the scholarly level or secondary education after high school. But what I really wanted to ask about and be sensitive about, Ms. Yazzie, is what can I do under my own capacity and involvement within the politics realm to help really either bring awareness to the situation or just, however you see fit.
Okay, well, thank you for that, Damien. One thing that with this school suit is we're asking the state to fully implement, the Indian Education Act that's already in place, and also the Hispanic Education Act, the Bilingual Multicultural Education Act. Those acts are already in place. However, they've never been funded. They've never been really brought in the forefront to really help our children and our students. So that's one thing that we really want to really come about and grow, so that way, those acts are fulfilled. And I think in that sense, our children will be able, all these things that we're asking for I'm trying to stay optimistic. I really don't want to think negative or be negative, but I think it's a long way coming to really see the changes. But I am appreciative of all the advocacy and everybody coming together to really bring this to light and come forward and voice their concerns. So, we all have different experiences. Just like, Andrea said, a lot of our students that are in the rural community, tribal communities, their identity, because their curriculum doesn't involve the cultural relevant curriculum in some cases, that they're trying to find their identity of who they are, where they come from. Our children are lacking that. I see that a lot in my community as well. And then, they turn to drugs and alcohol and just all these other bad stuff. So I just encourage you all just to continue to do your work. And for me, even through this case, just with my experiences, I've been doing a lot of research with, a lot of other things, not within myself, but with, everybody around. And I always just, especially the parents that are afraid to come forward or to really voice their concerns, just like Santri said, sometimes some of our parents, they will voice their concerns to the schools, but then they're either pushed back, turned around, or sometimes even, retaliated against. And they shouldn't be, because there are children. That's why we're concerned. So that's where I really want the state to help implement some kind of plan to get the parents involved, even students themselves, that, some students are very outspoken, and, those are the ones that we want to lead our nation in the future. They're our future, who we want, to be prepared. So I know I'm going on and on with different other things, but I appreciate your question. And I think just continue to do your advocacy and continue to voice your concerns.
Thank you.
Clarissa, did you want to ask your question?
Thank you. So one of the things that we have done in this group is to kind of co-vision how we wanted this organization to be when we first started out. And I wanted to ask, let's see, Ms. Yazzie, if you could just for a moment let me know, like, what is your ultimate vision for equitable education?
Inclusion. No matter what background you come from, no matter who you are, you know, to include everybody equally. That's really one of the main top us Indigenous people go through, have been going through, is we've never been included in anything. Now I think with, you know, worldwide, with all these protests going on and all these racial inequities coming about with the different type of races and ethnicity, people coming forth, it's bringing to light that, you know, it's hard to really bring out the truth. And I think that's what's coming out now is the truth. And just to be, just that inclusion for us and our children and our teacher educators, to be valued and to be supported and to be given the resources. And also for our children to be given. When I was talking to some of the, during that coalition with Transform New Mexico, you know, they kept stating and specifying, we all know what works, we all know what needs to be done. It's just the matter of the state to implement those plans and the state to really look upon those to help us and guide and, you know, to fully implement the acts. So yeah, just inclusion, I think, very most. And then of course, you know, we're a diverse state, a beautiful diverse state. We have all type of cultures, all type of backgrounds. So I hope that kind of answered your question.
That was a fantastic answer. And I think inclusion, we had actually, Damien and Sophia did an inclusion training for our group. And so I think that's absolutely perfect. And when I think about that, I think sometimes like Black Lives Matter, I think part of why we're at where we're at right now in this country in terms of movement is that Black Lives Matter it was time for it, and it came out so strongly and has had such great allyship that, you know, I would really love to, if that could ever happen, really have that type of power behind creating movement at the legislature for these bills. I mean, hopefully by next year, enough of us will have been vaccinated that we will be able to attend in person again. And I would love to be part of rallies and listen to speakers and, you know, show my support. Representative Liel Cohn is my dad's first cousin. I know a lot of other legislators, and I would love to be an advocate for your vision.
Thank you, Clarissa. I see Melissa's hand up.
Good afternoon again. I just really want to echo on all your shared passion and the people that have spoke before me. I do agree and I do believe the same. And as Ms. Yazzie had mentioned, within the special education, you know, we work with a lot of parents that have special needs and children. And I feel, and I always hear that, you know, inclusion is really critical within the special education community. And I take on the position to really advocate. I attend meetings and I attend, you know, different travel meetings like the ECE, CD. You know, it's really good to work with also Assistant Secretary Giovanna Archuleta, you know, on some of the things and some of the issues that we face, you know, with our parents, you know, just really having the IEPs and, you know, revise and the transition periods between, you know, the part and C to Part D, and there's a transition from early childhood into middle school, into high school, and then beyond. So just really sitting here and listening to all your knowledge and all your wisdoms, I feel that with these bills that you've gone through, it is important in Indian country, and it's important for our kids to be included. It's not special education, but all natives. That's that should be always be considered, and it's really important. And I just feel, even when we go to the other meetings, I always mention that, multicultural training is very important. And just really working with the New Mexico public education to, just always talking about, our special ed kids, to be included and not be excluded. Sometimes, our native students are shy, and right away they're already labeled, okay, they can go to special ed, but it's not like that. Every student should be given the opportunity to excel and to be included in, just and the same education as everyone else. So, just really investing in the House bills. I really believe that EPICS, will continue to support these bills along with, all the representatives that have spoken. And thank you so much for giving me the time.
Thank you, Melissa. Well, it's 3:31, folks, and I wanted to say thank you so much for all of you attending. And Wilhelmina, thank you so much for the work that you've done and the collaboration. Being your friend now is an awesome thing. You can talk to each other about these things and create events like this. And every single one of you, the work that you do in New Mexico and beyond is amazing. And I just encourage you to keep doing what you're doing, no matter what you face. And I will follow up with the email of all the links that we posted in the chat. And thank you so much. You all have a great day. Be blessed.
Thank you. It's very informative. Thank you so much. Thank you. Representative Montoya had to run off to a caucus meeting, but he says thank you, and we will be in contact with you all. We really appreciate that last statement of inclusion. Just kind of blew me away, because that's, at the end of the day, that's what it's about, right? It just, wow. Thank you. Thank you for making my Saturday beautiful. I appreciate it. Blessings.
For the T2 2032 folks, if you want to stay on for just a second, that would be great. Thank you so much, Ms. Yazzie.
You're welcome. Thank you. It was my honor. Thank you.
Bye.
I think that was a really fantastic presentation and meeting. Songtree, thank you so much for putting this together. I am just like, is it okay if we stop recording? Looks
oh,
like
yeah. Stop. There we go.